The Riot MMO is facing a new challenge 2 days ago. Oh, how did I not see this? Yeah, let's watch this. All right. Thanks for linking this, Taylor. The Riot MMO is facing a new challenge. Please don't cancel. I mean, you can face challenges, but please don't cancel your MMO, Riot. I want to play. Please. Please.
I have been baited by the glinting eyes of the Riot Games' massive multi-
Is that a spatula? That's definitely a... Okay.
player online role-playing game. Meaning it is time to talk about Riot's MMO again. Also, I'm washing all my hoodies and I only have the grey one. I feel like a different person. So, it's been a little bit since we did our last checkup on this magnificent yet alive project from Riot Games. Well, actually, it's been 4 weeks since the last news that affected the Riot MMO. But against the odds, we are back, and there are more things that we can talk about. And this time, the topic is very specific.
What is it?
Because not only did we get some reactions from Riot to topics that talked about specific game designs, but there is also a new beast that is riling up in the space of MMOs, and Riot might have to deal with it.
I like how when someone posts eye emojis on Twitter, it's like the biggest deal in like the MMO sphere. Like, oh my gosh, he did another pair of eye emojis. Yes, confirmed. Like,
so the news arrived in the form of another MMO failing. Yes, again. Yes, this has been a little bit of a reoccurring phenomenon in the space of MMOs these days. Because literally every new MMO that arrives either dies a few months after it arrives, or it dies before its own arrival. New World didn't exactly deliver on the living fantasy world idea. Project Ghost burned right after all the testing phases.
Rip.
Ashes of Creation also burned down because they spent all the Kickstarter money on luxury items. And so up to this point, it's been the Riot MMO that's been the last titan standing.
The only two, like I just said before we watched this video, that I'm excited for is Classic Plus and the Riot MMO. Like really. And both of them are just like, come on, guys, come on, we need something here.
Or at least, the idea of it is standing. Which naturally made a lot of people doubt that the Riot MMO is ever going to come out. And unfortunately for Riot, it is not like they can exactly confirm that they are still working on it. Because before they do that, it would be a good idea to officially announce the MMO first. And so, from the information we got, the Riot MMO is still going. And in fact, they are hiring more veterans to help out with it.
I believe Kirby and Ray made Plunderstorm from Blizzard, left Blizzard to join Riot to make the MMO. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Kirby and Ray were on Plunder.
And so from the breadcrumbs we got, it seems like the dev team behind the Riot MMO is very healthy. And most importantly for us, it seems like Riot is still aiming for the release of 2030 at the latest. So 3.5 years to go. The thing is, as we mentioned, keeping an MMO alive like this is very rare in today's world. Because the most played MMOs, as well as the only really living MMOs, are the veteran MMOs that stick to the good old formulas. And because people are already attached to the old MMOs, it is hard to release a new MMO and make people want to jump onto that one. Not to mention that in the vast majority of the modern MMOs, the design is not exactly the classic RPG experience that people want. In most cases, we are talking...
The spatula, I just keep looking at the spatula, man. Like, the spatula is getting me. Is this Legacy Steel and Sorcery, which renamed to Eldegard, which also shut down? It looks like it. RIP Legacy.
About what is called an instanced MMO, where you play with other players, but you don't really get the massive scale. And well, this is what leads into the latest event, which is also something that will eventually dribble down to the Riot MMO. With the news being that another MMO has died. Yes, really. And this time, Amazon Games are letting go of the new Lord of the Rings MMO, which was announced in 2023, so after 3 years of development, it's gone. And it kinda makes sense why. I mean, Amazon Games were behind New World, which didn't exactly have a great time. So it is possible that Amazon, as a publisher, is kinda done with the MMO space. Now, what is kinda funny and not depressive at all is that in the same announcement, they also cancelled an AI-generated game called Project Trident, and they announced that the entire company will be now exploring generative AI. Now, where is the really funny part? The old Lord of the Rings MMO is still standing. Now, the way these news eventually dribbled down to the Riot MMO is through Twitter. Again. You see, after this announcement was made, people started talking about the state of MMOs, pointing out how MMOs these days are just done. Because all people wanna really play is the minigames like in Fortnite and Roblox, and that's your multiplayer experience. And how this quick-styled gameplay is the vast majority of the social gameplay. In fact, these games are 90% social media and 10% gameplay. End of quote. Now, the truth is that I am a little bit knowledgeable on this topic because I started playing WoW when I was 12.
Same.
I am now 31. I am
Same
old.
kinda.
Thank you for asking.
32.
In fact, between making this video and making my own video game and starting other projects and being a father, I am trying to be relevant in the Burning Crusade. And yes, I sang an unholy number of hours into classic WoW on multiple accounts. Anyway, I can tell you that during the good old days of ancient MMOs, the 90% social network and 10% gameplay is exactly what MMOs were always about. I mean, the design of classic WoW relies on you finding other people to do group activities with. So you have to be social, or at least you have to participate in the social activities to progress. And after you reach the end game, 90% of your time is the preparations for the raid and managing people and managing schedules and putting together the raid. And after that, you have the 10% of gameplay, which is actually raiding. So,
do you guys think it's ever possible to have the next generation or the next generation or the next generation of kids after that to all kind of grow up and be, you know, in their teens and all play an MMO? Like, do you guys think that's actually in the realm of possibility? Or do you think that the attention span's just gonna get shorter and shorter? No, 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 no. So I'm gonna push back here a little bit. I've talked about this before, and I've played, you know, just to play a little devil's advocate, like, the way it kind of seems is all of these things are kind of cyclical, and they all come back around. And what I mean by that is, like, music seems to go in these cycles. They're kind of like generational, you know, names, fashion, right? Fashion, it's like, oh, why did we wear that? And then like 20 years later, we're wearing it again. And then like, why did we wear that? And then 20 years later, and like, I would like to believe if fashion's that way and music's that way, and like all these different things kind of go in and out of style, that video game genres are also that way. And that we're on the verge, on the cusp of the next generation of kids coming up being like, you know what? I've had it with YouTube Shorts. I've had it with fast dopamine. I want a slow dopamine experience. I want to grind and work for something the way my grandpa did. You know? Is that copium? Is that... It might be some copium. But maybe I'm right, and I hope I'm right. Because if that's the case, the consumer is always right. And if a ton of kids want a new MMO, then we'll get a good new MMO. But we'll see.
If you try to compare apples to apples here, the Roblox design is actually what MMOs have been doing the entire time. And ever since those old days, it always worked. The difference is that Roblox is just aiming for a much younger audience, with the gameplay also being far more questionable. But apparently, Roblox is slowly declining these days because they are not exactly treating their player base well. And so who knows, maybe the Titan will fall eventually. I mean, they all did before them. Anyway, the point is that this then started a conversation, which also summoned people opposing this. People that share the view that I just shared with you. I have a completely contrary opinion. The MMO is still in 2026 the holy grail of gaming. Look at all the current MMOs. There isn't a single one that in 2004 would make me envious. And other important markers demonstrate that there is still huge interest. New Worlds, The Release, Star Citizen, and so on. And yes, I do agree with this, and it is the same thing that I mentioned in some of the previous Riot MMO videos. The modern MMOs are actually quite far away from the original massive multiplayer online design.
Here's what happens when when you release a new MMO. If you try to copy WoW and make it a WoW clone, then people play it for a little bit and then think to themselves, wow, WoW is really great, and this is just a little bit worse than WoW. I'm just gonna go play some more WoW. You know, so it gets people into the new game, and they might even be excited for a bit, and then it just funnels them back to WoW because WoW did it better. So then they're like, okay, you know what? Let's not copy WoW. Let's go in a brand new direction and do something novel. And that's the other road these studios take. And then they go down that way, and then people play and they go, this isn't WoW. What is this? This is something completely new. We didn't ask for this. This doesn't even feel good. Screw this. I'm gonna go back to WoW. So it's like, either if you try to copy WoW, you're not going to do as good as them. And if you try to not copy them, people are going to get pissed off that it's not like following the winning formula, and they're going to quit and play WoW anyway. So it's like, it happens every time, man.
In fact, because the modern MMOs are so different, there is a reason why the audience always clings to the two big dogs. Classic WoW in whatever form it may be now, and, surprisingly, old school RuneScape, proving that the old MMO design is still peak. On top of this, it was proven that it is not just nostalgia, because as these two games have their highs and lows, sometimes the RuneScape players try WoW and they stick with it, and other times the WoW players try RuneScape for the first time and stay there too. And since both of them are very classic MMOs with totally...
I don't know, like... I don't know. I don't really know about that too much. Usually the RuneScapers will try WoW and be like, this sucks. It's not like a grind, you know, and then the WoW players will play RuneScape and be like, the graphics suck, and, you know, I hate click to move, you know, and like, I feel like these two communities are very strong, but they're very tribal. That's from my experience, right? Like, they're very, very, very tribal and kind of stick to their zones. I mean, some people play both too, but for the most part, it's like oil and water, man.
Different experiences, you can see where the overlap is. In fact, we also have people that have never played WoW before, and now they have an entire series that is very popular. Now, would this actually happen if classic WoW was more of a modern MMO? Likely not, and that's because modern MMOs are not really simulating fantasy worlds. They usually simulate a Diablo-styled looter, where you can sometimes see other players running around the world. And so now...
That is exactly right. That is exactly right. It's like a hack and slash. Let's run you through a dungeon, get a bunch of loot drops, bunch of dopamine, bunch of numbers, bunch of speed, bunch of movement, bunch of AoE, blast, blast, blast. It's like, what? What? It's not an MMO, it's an ARPG. Right? Like, it's what?
You have the core MMO audience that is still hungering for some kind of a classic experience. And the best part is that the executive producer behind the Riot MMO replied to this with the trademark eyes. Now, does this mean that the Riot MMO is gonna go back to the classic design of the early 2000s MMOs? Possibly, but
I hope.
It's definitely not guaranteed. You see, a few years ago when the Riot MMO went through the big reset, Riot confirmed it happened because they wanted to change the direction of the game. So either they were trying to make a new modern MMO and they saw it wasn't really working and so they went back to the classic designs, or they started making a classic MMO, they realized they weren't doing anything new and so they tried to spice it up. And right now, I really hope they are staying closer to the classic designs. Because that is the formula that the players seemingly really want. That is what the MMO audience is craving right now. And Riot definitely has the power to deliver on it. Which then brings up a question. If this is the experience that the MMO audience was, with classic WoW sitting right there, with a lot of people still returning to it, why don't they just stay happy in classic WoW?
There's no new content.
Simply said, it is because the old design is great, but nothing new ever happens there. Yet. You see, there seems to be a bit of a titan arriving. Because just as the Riot MMO is very slowly approaching, at the same time, from some of the teasers, it seems like Blizzard is trying to do the same thing. Recently, they flew a bunch of classic WoW creators into their headquarters.
I don't know anything about this at all. This is a much better photo for my height, by the way. This is a much better photo that represents our height. Like, yeah, I'm a bit shorter than Savix. Yeah, I'm definitely a bit shorter than Kuzu, but we're like around Soda's height. Yeah, this is the photo we should be looking at for the height. But like I said, I don't know anything about this.
Top of which they previously confirmed that the Classic WoW team is working on new things, which might include a plus. The team recently shut down some private servers which were handling more content for Classic WoW, which is exactly what Blizzard did before they launched Classic WoW. And so now the chances are really high that next year or the year after that, Classic WoW Plus might actually become real. Which, if you don't have the context, might be one of the most hyped up moments in the MMO space. And if the stars align perfectly, Riot might have to compete with a titan that millions of players are waiting in line for. I mean, when the initial Classic WoW released, it broke all the records and it brought WoW back to the 10 million subscribers, which is close to the highest peaks WoW ever had. And that is what Riot should be taking into account. Because people are going to compare the crap out of these MMOs. If the Riot MMO ends up being one of the modern MMOs, if it beats Classic WoW, then Riot is gonna pull off one of the biggest achievements in the MMO space.
Yeah. Like I said before this video started, I'm most excited for Classic Plus and the Riot MMO, but both of them are like maybe far out. But like, yeah, absolutely, 100% agree. Quick question for you guys. Would you rather have the Riot MMO be a modern MMO or a classic one? Now that I'm asking that question, I realize that it's a really biased question because of the nature of my chat. Obviously, everyone here is going to say classic, huh? Okay, that's a pretty biased audience here. I 100% want it to be a classic design for sure, but you know, I'm biased as well. So yeah, there it is. Classic audience wants a classic game. There it is.
But if it fails, it is once again gonna prove that the old MMO design just works. And if both of these end up being classic MMO designs, then be ready for hell being unleashed on the internet. Because the fandoms of the Riot MMO and the Classic WoW Plus are gonna be worse than the old console wars.
Yeah, it's gonna be nuts. I would love there to be two big MMOs. Because what would happen is they would push each other to get better and better and better and better. I'm trying to think, like, have we even had... So like you could maybe say FF14, what was the expansion that came out like 4 years ago? Like that might have helped push WoW to like be better. But I'm trying to think besides that, like D4 and PoE, there's like actual two options. Like League and Dota, there's like actually two options. I feel like for WoW, there's been competitors, but there hasn't been like a real another titan. The closest thing would be FF, Guild Wars and RuneScape, right? Maybe New World for like a second, but not really. And then maybe SWTOR for a second, but not really. And then maybe WildStar for a second, but not really. That's kind of my point. Like a long-standing MMO that like competes with WoW for the sake of WoW too, is what I'm trying to say. Like, if we have two massive MMOs, they can learn from each other and push each other to both be better. Like, I would love that. I would love the Riot MMO to be great, and then have Blizzard be like, ah, crap, we got to make our game even better now, right? Because we really haven't had a true example of that, to be honest. Like I like a bunch of people, it's like, yeah, we had SWTOR, Rift, like nothing like this though, right? There wasn't like a true competitor that was like, oh crap. So anyway, yeah, I'm excited. We got some more eye emojis. we got some more eye emojis. Hype. Okay.